Hello, and welcome to 10-Minute Teach. Have you been wanting to play Twilight Struggle, but maybe you're intimidated by the long play time or the rules overhead? Well, then have I got a game for you, because today I'm going to teach you how to play Watergate in 10 minutes or less. Watergate can be described as an intense bout of tug-of-war in which the game pits the Nixon administration against the newspaper editors who are attempting to uncover their corrupt dealings. There is a real sense of asymmetry between the two factions because each one is attempting to achieve victory through different means. As the newspaper editor, you want to connect at least two of these informants back to Nixon on the main player board like so. Through the use of card play, you will collect evidence tokens to pin to the board in order to make a connection from one of these informants all the way back to the central figure of Nixon on the player board. As the Nixon player, you want to fill up your momentum card with 5 momentum tokens. Once the Nixon player covers their 5th spot of their momentum card, the game will end immediately and the Nixon player will be declared the victor. This can occur after resolving step 4, or if at any time the Nixon player is able to bring a momentum token down to the 5 spot on his own track. If for any reason during the evaluation phase, players are unable to pull a new momentum token from the supply because it has run out, the Nixon player will also win in that scenario. This is accomplished through the card play. In Watergate, each opposing side will have their own unique set of cards, 20 in all for each side. This is the stack for Nixon. This is the stack for the newspaper editor. The player who does not currently have the initiative will draw 4 cards. The cards in Watergate are dual-purpose cards, consisting of a value part and an action part. Starting with the value portion of the card, this number here indicates how much you are able to manipulate either an evidence token of this color, or you can move either the momentum or initiative token that many spots. If you choose to carry out the action portion of a card, read the text described here, carry out those actions, and then this card will be removed permanently from the game and set aside. Once you run out of cards to pull from your draw deck, you will then shuffle your discard pile and create a new draw deck with it. So you can see here, as the newspaper editor, you simply want to connect from Nixon all the way back to one of the informants that have been played onto the board. As Nixon, you don't want this to happen. In a game of Watergate, players must be mindful that typically for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Take, for instance, if the Nixon player were to secure the support of Alfred Baldwin, the player would use that card for its event side, locate the Alfred Baldwin token from the potential informant supply, but would flip it over on this side, thus preventing the newspaper editor from making any connections from Alfred Baldwin back to Nixon. But if the Nixon player was not quick enough, then the newspaper editor may instead play their card or their version of recruiting Alfred Baldwin, secure that support, and then carry out the rest of the action, which is to move either the initiative or the momentum token one step toward their side. In the case of informants, once a player has played an informant to the pinup board, the other player cannot simply come across, play the secure the support card, and flip that token over. That is not allowed in a game of Watergate. As I mentioned earlier, when playing cards for their value portion, notice here in the top left-hand corner, you could either move a yellow evidence token 3 steps or the initiative or momentum token 3 steps. So here, you'd move it toward your side, 1, 2, 3 if you chose the initiative. Same with the momentum, 1, 2, 3. Or if you're the newspaper editor, you would ask Nixon, who has access to view what the evidence tokens are when they come out, whether or not they have a yellow evidence token. As part of that initial phase, the Nixon player is going to draw 3 evidence tokens and place them face down on the 0 space on the research track. One advantage to being the Nixon player is they will get to look in secret at what these tokens are as they place them down. Anytime that a research token is moved on the evidence track with the usage of the value portion of a card, whether it's toward the newspaper editor or toward the Nixon player, that evidence token gets placed face up and remains that way for the rest of the round. Because the evidence tokens are face down at the outset of a round, the newspaper editor is going to have to ask Nixon whether or not, when they play a card, if one of the evidence tokens matches the color of the card. So for instance, if the newspaper editor plays the value portion of this card and wants to move a green evidence token 2 spaces, they would ask the Nixon player if any one of the evidence tokens is green. For educational purposes, I went ahead and flipped these evidence tokens over. The Nixon player would then have the choice to pick one of the 2 green evidence tokens in this case, because this one is a dual purpose one. The Nixon player decided that they wanted to move this token in particular because it does not have that red momentum head start marker on it. Anytime that any one of the tokens, whether it's a evidence token, initiative token, or momentum token, reaches the 5 space on any one of the player's research tracks, that piece immediately gets to be put out, whether it's on the pinup board here, or they will simply take the initiative for themselves, or they will take the momentum for themselves. When placing the evidence tokens on the board, anytime that the newspaper editor places an evidence token on the board, they place it with this side up to whatever the corresponding color is on that pinup board. So for instance, they could place this one here on either a green or a blue spot. The Nixon player, whenever they place an evidence token on the board, will in fact be placing it face down here in an effort to block the newspaper editor player. And so players will take turns playing their cards one at a time until both players have exhausted their hands. Then, at the end of the round, we go ahead and resolve those actions. Let's go over the end of round evaluation phase. So first, take any tokens that are on the 0 space on the research track and return them to the bag. Next, award this round's initiative. In this case, it's on the newspaper editor's side, so it will stay with the newspaper editor. Then, award the momentum token. It's on the Nixon side of the research track, so that will go to Nixon. Now, we're going to place the initiative token back on the 0 space. We're going to pull the next momentum token from the supply. And finally, we're going to award this round's evidence tokens. Whoever has the initiative will place it first. In this case, the newspaper editor will go ahead and link his final informant and win the game. In Watergate, players will continue to take turns one at a time and move through each one of the different steps until one of the aforementioned victory conditions is reached, whether it's Nixon getting his 5th momentum token or running out of momentum tokens from the general supply, or the newspaper editor is able to connect 2 informants to the central Nixon on the pinup board. And that, my friends, is Watergate. Thanks for watching.